Good evening and welcome to On Point Opinions. I'm Bobby Kinzer
And I'm Juan Holcomb
and we are On Point
on Point
Opinions.
Opinions.
Yes, the show that discusses the hottest topics nationally, globally, politically, judicially, relationship, business, sports. We're going to be talking about it. And the reason why me and Juan came up with this show is because we have heard so many uh, statements by people that said they were giving out facts and it was false facts, like fake news. And we also realize that a lot of people just don't read. A lot of people just don't do research. They just listen to sound bites and they take and repeat what they heard.
Mhm.
I heard a lady today say, oh man, Obama, when he left office, he had the highest debt, ever. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Donald Trump raised the debt higher than anybody. Matter of fact, President Obama trimmed $2 to $3 trillion off of the debt.
Mhm.
So she was all wrong. So that's what we came up with this show. We want to deal with the facts. We want to help some people since they don't want to read. We want to tell you about some of the things that are going on. And let me tell y'all, there is a lot going on, isn't it, Juan?
It absolutely is, Bob. And, and you're exactly right. We hear all kinds of things. And let me say hello to everybody. We are back after we took the uh, April show for our Easter break. I was out of town. So we are just getting back to you all since our March show. And we say, even when we are every month, so much happens, but it has been amazing how many things have gone on during that time. And yeah, we really are excited about um, sharing our thoughts, what we hear, opinions from our friends and family and so forth. So, yeah, Bob, I think this is an important time for On Point Opinions.
And once again, it's just our opinion, but a lot of it is based on facts. It's just that we're giving you our opinion on the facts. So we're not making up stuff, okay? But we are giving you just our little slant on how we see some things. And me and Juan, we actually a good combination because he usually sees things a lot more warped than I do. No, I'm just kidding. but we have our different perspectives, and so Juan, let's just kick it off, man, with uh, the first. Juan, why don't you do a recap of what has gone on since the last show we had, and that's going to be interesting. We're just going to give you all a rundown.
Rundown, and um, if folks are watching and we leave something off, you put it in our chat box, send it in, comment. But these are some of the things that we've come up with. Well, just to kick it off, um, there was the Tennessee three expulsions, and for a bit point of clarification, three. Um, uh, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But
Right, we're going to get into it.
two were expelled from the Tennessee legislature. Trump was indicted. Who knew Trump was indicted in New York? Uh, and more scandals for Supreme Court. Where
Don't
would we
forget
be with
Trump's
that?
rape case.
Oh yes, yes, and we'll get in a little bit to Trump's indictments, and I've called it Trump's indictments and entanglements. And but where would we be without our daily updates of our Supreme Court? Just some more money grubbing, grifting from the highest, most pristine court in the land. So we'll talk a little bit
It
about
seems to
that.
have no rules, but just rules for everybody else. No rules for them.
None. Of course, there have been more mass shootings around the country, um, and innocent acts like ringing the doorbell have become deadly. And as Bob, we're coming on the air getting alerts about mass shootings, people running people down in Texas. So it's really just it's astonishing, the rate of violence, and more bank bailouts. So if you're concerned about your banking, hey, will there be more? We'll touch on that. More bank bailouts and runs on banks. Fox News defamation lawsuit. If you all remember right, Dominion Voting Systems sued Fox. So that's become big, and their settlement. We'll touch on that. Biden, he has announced his run for a second term. We'll talk about that later as well. And I never thought this would happen. Tucker Carlson fired from Fox News.
Yay.
Opinion. And right at that same time, Don Lemon, longtime CNN anchor, was fired from CNN. So that caught many people by surprise, or did it? And there have been loads of new laws implemented around the country, kind of assisting Republicans and right-wingers to maintain control in the particular states. And you've heard us talk many times about states' rights, and this seems to be along those lines, and how a lot of judgments are happening in that. So that's as I said, I know I missed it.
Oh, you forgot DeSantis and Disney.
Oh, DeSantis is still fighting Disney, the largest employer in his state, and one of the most beloved companies in the country, in the world. So go figure. King Charles was crowned, coronated in Friday, or was that Saturday morning? Excuse me, yesterday, and we have a new king. Do I hear cheers, clapping? Is there excitement out there, Bob? Do I hear?
No, what was sad though, he had to wait 60 years for his mother to die to become king. Look, yeah. He kept putting banana peels at the top of the steps and stuff.
Bob.
Yes. So.
No, but yes, but King Charles, yes, and of course there's always a little controversy around his son and so forth. So yes, a lot going on.
Don't forget about his son, and they done fled the monarchy, and he's fled with a black woman. So
yeah, that has set Britain afire. But these are just as I said, we know that there have been a myriad of things, and there's a lot going on.
Don't forget, in the thing of events, the Prime Minister of China went and met with Putin, which that's major. Mm-hmm. McCarthy went and met with Netanyahu in Israel. Mm-hmm. That's major. Mm-hmm. DeSantis went over in Europe and tried to, I guess he hasn't said he's running yet, mm-hmm. but he went over there to test the waters. And they sent him back so fast. That was a blunder. That missed that travel. That trip was, they ran him out of England.
Mm-hmm. And we'll touch on a couple of things because he's in that whole thing of these states coming up with laws that benefit themselves. So, but we'll hit on that, Bob, because we got quite a bit for the folks.
Yeah, but the other thing about states making laws for themselves, he made a law that he changed the law so that he could actually still stay as governor while he's running. That's some crazy stuff. So Juan,
okay.
All right, let's start off.
Yes, he did.
So let's start off with our first hot topic, and that is President Sleepy Joe Biden is running for president again. How do you feel about that?
Well, we kind of knew it was coming, or at least think it's coming, and I know that Biden has been a kind of a, this has kind of gone on throughout his presidency, lackluster polling numbers, but I expected it. I think it happens at a good time for him because I think his main competition is in some trouble. I do believe
What do you
that
mean his main competition? Oh, you mean Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Oh, right.
Now that doesn't mean he's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is used to. He's the Teflon Don. But I do believe that if that is the next matchup again, which by the way they took a poll and many people said that they were really kind of exhausted of that combination, that Biden against Trump.
Hey Juan, speaking about these polls and you trying to quote the polls, have you ever been polled?
No.
Me either. So the hell with the daggone poll. Stop the daggone foolishness. You're gonna tell me the poll, and then the most they are canvassing 1,000 people in New Hampshire or some crazy stuff. So stop the daggone foolishness. The other thing is, Juan, if not Biden, then who?
Right. I say that as well, and you make my point for me, Bob. I will say though, Bob, and that's another reason we do the show. If you watch news, or if you read news, or if you go out and get news, you will see that most shows, most people use polls every day. You know, they cite a poll.
So do strippers.
You know, the Wall Street Journal poll, NBC poll. So, you know, they cite these polls, and you're exactly right, Bob. But I think people are heavily influenced by what they hear. But I agree. Biden has he continues to be underestimated, and he continues to overachieve in a very difficult, very partisan, and very divided
I don't understand it, though, Juan. I don't understand how people are, you know, calling him Sleepy Joe. He's too old. He hasn't done anything. The way I look at it, it seems like he's done more than any president I know in the last 40, 50 years. He has the highest job creations than any president ever.
Yep.
He passed the rescue bill, the infrastructure bill, the chip bill, a gun bill that they have been trying for years to get passed. I mean, he's did so many stuff, but yet, I mean, he's done and didn't handle the whole COVID situation.
Yes.
They act like that. Yes. People forgot like there was a COVID and it was in shambles from the Trump administration, and he came down. Now they talking about it's not even alert anymore.
Yeah.
This lowest over, yet people are still piling on. Can you explain to me, Juan, why?
Lowest unemployment, just to add a few.
Oh, forgot that. Years. Oh, thank you, Juan. Yes.
Why? He's appointed the most judges, I think, for a 2-year term. Appointed many judges of color.
But why? But how they riding them, man? I don't
get it. You mentioned something that I think gets at it, and I believe we have a thing in this country, really something with ageism, and I think that makes a difference. You know, I watch Saturday Night Live and other shows, and they really make fun of a lot of things, but it links to their age. And Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, she literally said, and I quote, you know, Biden will be dead by the time if he makes it through. He'll die before he makes it to 86 to think. And I was just amazed that I don't know if I should be happy that she did not get any real kind of publicity with that, but that she can say that thing and we don't have any, you know, people are not really chastising her. And if you remember right, Don Lemon said something about her prime, being at her prime at 51, and he caught hell for it. And I think that's also linked to his firing.
So Juan, but does she not have? So does she not have a point when it comes up? And this is what I think people are afraid of. If let's say, heaven forbid, President Biden wins and he runs and he does pass, that means that Kamala Harris will end up in the seat, the commander in chief. And some people are feeling scared about that. What's your thoughts on that? What's your opinions on that?
Well, you and I were discussing Kamala yesterday, and I think it's 2 points on that, Bob. I think you're exactly right. I think that there are two minds on Kamala. They know Kamala was very popular, being the first woman vice president and being a woman of color, Asian and Black. They say all those things. So, but I think that there was a concerted effort to minimize her and make her seem like she really doesn't, do anything.
Right.
And I thought that they did that very well. And if you all know, there just recently they had the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and that's where, for those of you who've never heard of it before or seen it, that's where the White House, the press, gets to come together and be honored. But the president and they all kind of take jokes about everything. And the MC of it, who I thought was great. If you get a chance, try to go back and look at it.
Woods.
Yes, Roy Woods. He was excellent, and he said something about the vice president. He said they asked. He said they never done this before with any other vice president, but they said, "What does Kamala do?" And he's right. Nobody's ever asked when Joe Biden was vice, or when Gore or any other vice. That's never been asked until a woman was put in place. So I think she has a bunch of things going against her. A woman, a strong woman, a woman of color, and I think that they want to minimize both of them. They don't want Biden or her to be president.
But that's what they do. They focus on the things that are against us. Now, let's, as a point of reference, let's focus on the things that are in her benefit. One, she has been traveling around the country, around the world, getting foreign experience. Number one, she's a very smart lady from the beginning.
Yeah.
She's getting a lot of foreign affairs experience.
Mm-hmm.
One.
Yes.
She has been put on, she's like the lead on the immigration. Now that's tough.
Impossible task.
That's tough, but she's on that. So she's getting tried by fire. She's going to be a little bit more equipped than what people. They don't want to talk about the negatives, but the positives is, and she lays low and she's learning, and I'm happy for that. Yeah. Swan, let's switch up because we still on the politics, man. But let's talk about the debt ceiling right quick, which is in the political thing. The debt ceiling is given there. The time to pay out debt.
June 1st, isn't it, Bob?
June 1st. If they don't vote on it, it's coming fast, and it'll be catastrophic to not just this country, to the world. We have never defaulted on our debt, meaning paying the treasuries, paying things like that. We have never done that, defaulted. And they're trying to hold Joe Biden and the Democrats hostage. They came up with a fake bill. That they passed the budget, which has so many deep cuts. It's just ridiculous.
The critical social programs, right.
Mm-hmm. So, I want to get this comment in. Johanna Hafez.
Yes.
Says,
that's my cousin.
It's because he said DeSantis also fighting against the blacks about being woke. Oh yeah, he wise that word woke like I don't know what. He don't even know really what it means, and don't want the schools to implement Black history in the schools. Yeah, that's right, Johanna. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous with DeSantis. But continue on.
Yeah, but we'll circle back on him. But McCarthy and the Republican, Bob, we mentioned in our March show, because you were so adamant about it, about the debt ceiling, and here we are on the doorstep. McCarthy went also to Wall Street to try to pitch this thing about that. And I know Wall Street doesn't want for us to default on that debt. So are they playing a game, Bob? How far do you think they'll go with this?
Well,
they're crazy now.
Well,
but I don't, what do you
think? History shows, Juan. Now, history shows they're playing a game because it always come up to the last minute and they pass it. That's why it's never been defaulted on. But this is the problem now. There's some crazy mofos in there like Taylor Green and got there's some crazy ones in there, and they might
they don't care about anything. Right.
And but Juan, this is so crazy about the debt. This is not about future debt. This is about past debt that we
already spent,
accrued. Yeah, that we had accrued, and it's like you run up your credit card to the maximum, and then you tell the credit card company, you know what, I'm not going to pay it. Come on, man.
Who can do that?
That's what they're doing. But they're crazy, Juan. They're just simply crazy. But Juan,
but to that point, Bob, I think you're right. I think though they want you. If you've been hearing this week, they have not a new, but there's a thing they can do without having the Republicans or somebody do. I forget what it's called. There's a procedure. And I believe that they know there's these procedures. I believe they'll find a way around them, but they would have done what they wanted to do. They would have shown the Trump vote that, hey, we told the line, we hold the line,
right?
But it's going to get passed. Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm not sure it's going to get passed, Juan. They're crazy enough to go off the cliff. I'm not sure. I'm scared, and it will affect people's 401k plans,
right?
Their IRAs, their stocks, it's crazy. But Juan, before we get off this political subject, let's talk about the Tennessee Three, the Democrats.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the big things that happened this week, and this is where we see democracy is really taking a hit around the country. One more of our southern states, but in Tennessee, 3 state legislators were admonished for protesting. Right before that, and I did not mention that, I said there were a lot of gun violence. There was a shooting that killed children at a school. A former student came back and shot and killed children and teachers at the school, and it was outrage. And so these lawmakers wanted to pass something on gun violence, but the supermajority, and you'll hear me say that later on, the supermajority in these states said that because they were doing their protesting, they were not decorum. They were out of decorum in the state and expelled them for standing up for their constituents and doing the right thing. And they expelled, there were 3, a white lady and 2 young black legislators. And this is our future, very young people in their 20s. But it ended up backfiring, Bob, because...
But first, clarification. No, they only expelled the 2 black.
They only expelled the 2 black. That's correct.
Not the white woman.
But the 3 were, in my... She was the only one by 1 vote.
Yeah, but she wasn't expelled, though.
She was not expelled.
Right.
And the 2 boys, but they were immediately...
Then they got because their districts, they can't override their districts, and they got them back in.
The districts put them right back in.
Another sign, Juan, of democracy under attack in this country. But
absolutely,
it doesn't surprise me with those red states, them southern states. And by the way, Juan, there's a survey that just came out about credit scores, the lowest credit scores in America. 640 is all through the South. And a lot of people thought, that's where a lot of black people are, right? Because a lot of them didn't migrate north from slavery.
Right.
But they thought it was...
And they're moving back down.
Right. But they have the lowest scores in the country. I'm talking about Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. And so they thought it was just black people, but it's not just the black people. You know what's causing their credit scores to be so low, Juan? Medical costs. They're not paying their medical bills, and then you make you wonder, well, why are their medical costs so high? I guess all them chitlins and pork chops they eat down there. But I'm just saying, Juan.
And they still haven't expanded. Many of those states haven't expanded Medicaid.
Right. All
the way back to the Obama administration. Right. Free money.
Right. But yet they're still going to fight democracy, fight for kids, guns being shot. And they got so many problems down there in the South.
So many. And we'll talk a few more about states' rights. Yeah.
Okay, Juan, so let's switch my subject. Let's go to the judicial segment.
Well, as we said, there's been a lot there. The ongoing ethics scandals with the Supreme Court. I mean, And just to recap for folks, now we have the latest that involved Chief Justice John Roberts of the courts and his wife, who his wife had made, she is a corporate recruiter. I don't know if people know about recruiting. You know, it's a big deal. She recruits for high stakes law firms, but they paid her well over, this particular law firm, $10 million recruiting lawyers. And they found out that some of these law firms have had cases before the Supreme Court. So all of it looks bad. $10 million.
Clarence Thomas.
Then let's move on to Clarence Thomas and his wife. And they just add, his is a rolling thing. They just keep going. They just found out that something else they were trying to cover up for money she was paid for lobbying purposes right before the Shelby v. Holder, where they gutted the Voting Rights Act. She was paid thousands and thousands of dollars.
But that was lightweight compared to the other things. Like he was getting millions from a Republican
mega
donor.
Yeah, billionaire.
And I'm talking about paying
Harlan Crow
millions of dollars on trips, paying for his mother's house, paying money for just lavishing gifts. And
right.
And then we found out what is being exposed, Juan. We can't forget Gorsuch too.
Well, we'll come back to
proprietors there, some financial malfeasance. But
yeah,
the whole thing, though, Juan, it brings us and it exposed that the Supreme Court don't have any governing or regulatory rules around them, but yet
right.
they pass laws to regulate and govern other people.
Yes.
You know, do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do.
It's crazy.
What about, and I want to ask you this because it is very frustrating. So what I've heard everybody saying, and the Democrats, and they're coming out somewhat strong, but they say that there needs to be an ethics, reform for the court. And my question is, and the person who I heard speak the strongest for the Democrat is Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut. Most of them are former prosecutors and very wealthy, by the way. But Senator Blumenthal, who talked about it, subpoenaing Harlan Crow and everybody else, and that something should be done. But when I hear, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but when I hear there needs to be an ethics, what does that mean? And does that hold them accountable? Because they've shown ethics, if it's just, like a tradition, which they've shattered all traditions, that doesn't mean anything to them. You're gonna stop. They're gonna stop taking millions and flying around on their planes and on their yachts and doing this because they violate an ethics. So I haven't heard. Is there teeth to it? Is there criminal? Can they be put out? Do they have to be impeached? Can they be put out?
None of that. No, none of that. There's no rules for that. But to your question, if that was a question, Juan, what does it mean? Getting an ethics officer. And you know what that means? That they don't have an ethics officer. They're getting one. So there's no ethics around them, man. It's ridiculous. Juan, let's go to the court defamation case of Dominion Systems against Fox News, the great big Rupert Murdoch. Right. 784 million, is that right? Billion.
Yes, 784 million.
Billion. No, billion. Yeah.
About roughly half of what they sued them for.
Right.
But
that's a lot of money.
Bob, I'm cool now, but I do want our viewers and people to know that Supreme Court thing bothers me. Now I'm cool. I can get angry, but there's something just terribly wrong about it.
It's totally foul, Juan.
Okay. But yes, so the defamation laws, that was a huge thing. Did you think they would settle, Bob? Fox, the powerful Fox?
Yeah, I kind of thought they would because they might have paid more than the 2 billion that they were being sued for. And
Mm,
so, like they do,
that's a good point.
like what their attorneys do, they look and see how can we cut our losses because it could have
Okay.
took them down.
Right.
It
Right.
could have took them down.
Yeah. Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that they settled. And then you got these
Because
other
they still have punitive damages. I think that they
right,
can still got it
and
right.
they got another couple of $1 billion suit.
It's Smartmatic. Smartmatic is suing
Yes.
them. Yes. So they
So
still do.
so they trying to get ahead of the ball.
And the whistleblower, she's suing them.
Right, right,
She's
right.
suing Tucker
So
and those.
yeah, so I mean, so then we got it with
Maybe
this.
you're right. They cut their losses, maybe, but
And,
they
and
still
they
got
cut their
some
losses with
battles to
Tucker
go.
too, by the way, right?
Do you think this will change them at all, Bob?
Normally don't people those big people like that? No, they don't. They because they got the money to pay
They
it.
got the money to
Obviously,
pay out, right?
they'll just keep doing what they're doing. Why? Because it's like the alligator and the scorpion. The scorpion asks the alligator, "Hey man, can you give me a ride across the river so I get to the other side?" And the alligator said, "No, man. No, I know what you're gonna do. I know your nature. You're gonna sting me, man, and I'm gonna die and drown and won't go." He said, "Man, no, no, man. I'm telling you, I promise I won't do it. It don't make sense because if I did that to you, I drown too. What sense does that make?" He said, "You got a point there." They get halfway across, and the scorpion stings him. He said, "Man, why'd you do that?" He said, "Man, it's my nature." And that's how they all won. You saw with Enron and what was the other the AIG. These most
They can't help themselves.
snapped and they ended up going to get finished paying 50 million on their corporate jet. I mean, it's the same thing, Juan.
They can't help themselves.
We're in turmoil, man. Something's gotta give,
Something's got to
man.
give. I think it's given. We're the shootings every day and robberies.
So Juan, did Fox fire Tucker Carlson because of the defamation case of causing them to lose
80 something million, at least.
million. I kept saying million. I meant to say million, right?
780 some million. Well, I think that may have contributed. I don't think that that's all. They just talked about the fact that they finding more emails about Tucker Carlson doing racist email.
But Juan, it kills me about the racist emails.
That's a surprise.
There's one particular racist email that they said that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Their whole show, their whole station is about racist remarks. So stop the daggone fools, Rupert Murdoch. It had nothing to do about him making some racist comment.
Right.
Me, man. Stop that goddamn fools.
I'm like, come on. But I think that I also read that Tucker is kind of bigger than he thought he was bigger than Fox. And people don't realize Tucker's been fired from CNN, from MSNBC, from now Fox News, and some others.
Yes.
So everywhere he's gone, he's been fired. But I do think he thought he was a little bit bigger than even Rupert, and that doesn't.
That's what I think
well.
happened, Juan. Something happened behind the scenes with Rupert, and Rupert, he had to let him know.
Right, he had to let him know. Drop the hammer. You go out there and see what you do on your own. Yeah. But it did surprise me a little bit. What about Bob? Though the Proud Boys convicted for seditious conspiracy. That was big. They said that's a very hard thing to get people convicted of. To a hard thing to prosecute seditious conspiracy for their roles in the January 6th insurrection. What did you think about that?
I'm sorry. Repeat that again, Juan.
The Proud Boys. Yes, they were convicted this past week. So
yes,
that was
that's another court dealing, Juan. And you know what? And I mean, they gave them some time, and it's hard to do. What is it called? Sedition? Is that the right word?
Right, sedition.
Somebody for that, and they got him. But Juan, I have this theory, conspiracy.
Okay, and I have a question for you. So go on. Yes.
The head of the Proud Boys was a man of color. A black
Yes,
guy.
Authority. What's his name? I can't.
I don't care what his name is. He's a black guy. Juan,
Black Latino, I think.
for
No.
the life is still black. You know, they say 1%, made you black back there in your blood. But Juan, I got this theory. Isn't it ironic that a black man was leading a racist group like that? So what does that tell you? Because, man, you got to watch out for the FBI and CIA. Juan, now I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
I think
Probably because
he's going to disappear. He's going to end up in the witness protection program and never going to see him again. Because I think they planned him. Because come on, man, a black man running a racist, that's like the daggone skit by the guy from DC, the comedian. What's his name? Dave Chappelle.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
He had the black guy who was blind and thought he was
the Klansman, the Black Klan.
Yeah, come on, Juan.
The Grand Wizard, yeah.
Well, something ain't right about that, man. I think he was a plant. That's how foolish they are. They didn't even know. But anyway, that's just my theory.
Well, maybe he'll end up on that island with on Epstein's island. Epstein, not he probably not dead. He probably be out there. Him and Jeffrey Epstein, the one that's supposed to die in the hospital, did all those to those girls and.
Oh man! No, he hung himself. Yeah,
right. Your Honor just said something, Bob. I see it up there.
Yes.
Carlson got fired to take most of the weight concerning Trump's false allegation. All those emails. Well.
He said Fox also got kicked out of the building they were renting. Fox got is it Johanna?
Yes. That's it, Johanna.
Johanna. One thing for sure, Fox got problems.
Yeah, they got a few problems, but. I don't think that they're totally worried about it. But now I do have a question. I have a question for you and others watching, Bob. Do you think they will now go up the chain? Now that was the question. Someone said it. They got the boots on the ground. They did a pretty good job convicting some of the boots on the ground. But what about the suits now? Will they go up into the higher suites and talk to these senators like Tommy Tuberville, who was meeting with the Proud Boys, and Roger Stone and those guys, and Josh Hawley? Will they go up the chain some, or do you think that's it for the Attorney General?
One, they're so fickle. I don't know what they do, but it is my hopes that they do, because if they do, then those people are going to be convicted, because these lower people got convicted for the same thing. Yeah.
I hope they go after.
It is my thought that they would probably try to shield them, but I hope they go after, because if they do, they're going to get convicted. They, just like the guy Cohen, Trump's attorney, that went to jail.
Yes, Michael Cohen. Yeah,
for the whole thing that he's dealing with.
Right, he's the only one. Right.
Money, hush money.
Yes, hush money for.
So why wouldn't Trump, get, he was behind all of that, shouldn't he? Well,
what about, Bob? Then will they be able to? I think that they should be able to convict them. However, that's the question: shielding them but they should have them be able to testify. I don't know. My sister said Fox fired Tuckers about money.
Tuckums, I like she called them Tuckums.
Yeah, they couldn't care less about
race. They said, hey, you know what though, Sabrina? You said they fired Tuckums about money. Man, they could care less about money, because that mug was making so much money. It's something else, Sabrina. I think he got too big for his pants and thought he was bigger than Rupert Murdoch. Because just like they don't care about racism, they don't even care about money. The money they paying Tucker Carlson, shoot, they could get that back tenfold.
But they should go up the chain a little bit, the food chain, because
no question. But will they?
Because they said a prosecutor talked about the fact that they were funded. Somebody had to pay for it, pay for travel, they pay for location, planning. So there's a lot more there. So anyway, I hope that they go up the chain, but I won't be surprised if they don't.
Well, let's go to our next subject, Juan, unless you want to, make some last comments about.
Well, quickly,
Yes.
Pence finally testified, but
Oh,
I
that's
guess we'll have
right.
to wait and see if what comes from his testimony.
You call Tucker Tuckums, I call Pence Punkums.
Yes, Tuckums and Punkums, they had to both
Punkums.
testify.
Yeah, I know. And I'd like to know, do you think he spilled the beans on Donald?
Hey, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I think he is, because he's a punk. And
Yes, he really
so
is.
he was
He really
shielded
is.
by, being behind, the curtain.
Right.
I think he sold him out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he sold him out.
Hey, and Trump has he's got a lot on his plate with the rape trial, the DA in New York, and everybody's waiting for the shoe to drop in Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, Johanna said Nitty is like
Hannity is next.
Sean, I
Hannity.
thought he called him Nitty.
Nitty, that close enough. Hannity's hiding out. He's been very quiet. Have you noticed that?
Oh, very quiet.
That's what he's been very quiet.
Very quiet. So Warren, let's go to the next subject, man.
Okay.
Business subject.
Ooh.
A lot of people, I get a lot of calls because I used to work for the FDIC, who insured the commercial banks in America.
Tell what that acronym stands for, Bob.
The Federal Deposit Insurance Company. They are regulators of commercial banks, but the OCC, believe it or not, is the regulatory agency for most of the banks, but the FDIC insures all the banks under the SEC, the Federal Reserve, and the FDIC. They cover the insurance, $250,000 per category of accounts, because you can have more than $250,000 insured in the bank, because you can have $250,000 as an individual, $250,000 as a joint account. That's $500,000. Then you can have a business, but you can't use it. The business using your social security number has got to be a proper business with a tax ID number. That's another $250. That's $750. Then if you have kids, you can have in trust for in your kids. So if you have two kids, it's another $500,000. So you could have up to over $1 million in federally insured funds if you set them up right. But most people only have, they check in the savings accounts, the individual accounts, and they get insured up to $250,000. So the reason why I'm saying that, because a lot of people wanted calling me up, panicking, saying, Bob, what's going on with the banks? Now, Silicon Valley Bank was the biggest bank that has failed in history, matter of fact. And then Signature Bank was the other bank. And then just recently, First Republic Bank.
Yes.
Now, the other two banks, they actually failed, but what the FDIC did, they stood in and insured all the deposits, because the issue with Silicon Valley Bank was they had all their eggs in one basket. They were highly into the market, right? And cryptocurrency and all of those kind of things. And they had all their eggs in one basket. And when the market was doing great, they were doing great. And so was the people who was investing in their bank. But when the market shifted, then everything changed. The game changed. So Silicon Valley, they went down. They got bailed out. Signature did. But First Republic, the other banks won. What people don't know, the FDIC didn't shore up First Republic with the other bankers, like the big too big to fail banks actually gave capital. I don't know if they gave it to them or they loaned the money to First Republic to save them, because they were smart. Because what's happening, even though it was just a couple of banks, people were getting nervous, because your money in the bank is only kept there through public confidence.
Right.
No one, makes you keep your money. So it's only there because you feel confident that your money. So that's what happened. The Silicon Valley won billions within 2 hours over. I'm talking about hundreds. It was about, I don't know, I forgot. I thought Curtis was maybe over $100 billion was pulled out of that bank because of, they thought the bank was going to fail, and they called it a run on the banks.
Run on the bank.
That takes value out of a bank. So the other banks, Juan, I just want to say this real quick so people understand, they put the money up to shore up First Republic. That wasn't FDIC money. But what happened, it's not enough. And so First Republic looked like it was going down. So JP Morgan stepped in and is going to buy all their assets, all their good
Right.
assets and their deposits. So I just want to give that little history. So a lot of people were panicking about.
No, that's good, Bob, because it does make you wonder. And Bob and I both, not only did Bob work for the FDIC, he began his financial career in securities and insurance. So we both were Series 7 diamonds, so where we could sell securities. So
Right.
we have a bit of knowledge, but Bob goes way back in that game. And
Yeah.
Bob and I asked Bob some questions about culpability, accountability in these banks, because oftentimes you just hear banks, you don't hear people behind it. You know, there are people running these banks, there are people managing these banks. And so I always ask them, is there criminality? Is there a problem? Because nobody seems to get in trouble. And, you know, when these banks do something that seems like it calls them to run afoul, if you will.
Right. Mismanagement,
mismanagement,
Right.
and what that means when they're, you know, so much on hanging in the balance. But for people who don't know, Bob said J.P. Morgan is buying the bank. J.P. Morgan is called a bank as well, and I think people get confused when they hear banks like J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs. They are banks, but are they considered investment banks, Bob?
No.
Whereas bank or commercial?
No, now they have investment institutions, financial institutions, but they don't know. They actually, well, this is, let me back up for a minute. No, they're not investment banks. Now they have investment banks, but no, they're investment banks that went and opened a bank. They got smart.
Right.
Now, because of Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, which was put in place in 1933, and it kept
right
people that weren't in banking couldn't buy a bank. Okay. So investment banks couldn't be in banking because the Glass-Steagall Act that allowed a lot of investment banks to get involved with banks, but yet they can't sell securities in a bank, you know, but they can have a branch that they go to and buy the securities. But at first you couldn't do that. You kept it separately. So that's something that happened, Juan. But this is what I want to tell people.
Full disclosure, I worked in a bank and sold securities for a while.
Right. But you were a separate entity. You wasn't working for the bank that you were in, right? You were working for another company.
No, I was working for the bank we were in. Me and you remember Tracy Jackson, myself.
Oh, okay. I always thought y'all were a separate entity.
Right. Well, we worked for out of United National Bank, which was a Black-owned bank at that time, actually from somebody we know from South Carolina.
So who paid your paycheck?
But Acacia purchased them. And, you know, we both worked for Acacia. Acacia purchased United National Bank.
Oh, wow.
And so we sold securities out of there for a short time.
Well, who did you get your paycheck from? Who paid you? It wasn't United National Bank.
Yes.
It was?
Yeah. Or Acacia.
No. Before Acacia came in.
Because Acacia, remember, Acacia bought Calvert and United.
Right. But this is the thing for people who are wondering about, should they be panicking? Is this getting ready to start a run on the banks? Is the banks starting to go down? There's only 3 banks that went down in 2023. From 2001 to 2023, there have been over 500 banks that fell.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 banks failing just in this period of 2000.
But I think most people don't realize that many banks go. Bob used to go in and close banks or things. So he knows, but you're right. I don't think people realize that banks close like that.
Yeah, and they get nervous, and then that starts to run on banks, and that's what the banking industry is trying to prohibit. And that's why Joe Biden went in and had insured all the deposits, and even the uninsured deposits, so people keep their faith in the banking system. Yeah, that's the business on the banking side.
Right. But now just continuing in that business thing, and we touched on some of these others before, but Johanna mentioned something. Ron DeSantis and his ongoing fight with Disney. And I wanted to, they think that's helping or hurting him. And is he going to run for president? But he set himself up so he could stay governor and run.
Right.
Bob, that
But
was good. You pointed
he don't
that out.
stand a chance though, Juan. On the national scene, that stuff works in Florida, but that ain't going to fly.
Mm-mm.
He might look, and he still haven't even declared that he's running.
Right,
Because he's
right.
getting eaten alive.
That's why he set up that thing that he can run for president.
Yes.
And
And still keep his governorship. Come on, man. What's up with Florida, man? But how you going to pick a fight with Mickey Mouse?
Right.
Good Lord. And look, that's one of the biggest corporations that are funding that state. And he's going to, I mean, I'm sure Disney, got their shortcomings too. But I mean, he's cutting the hand that feeds him.
I remember when Obama, they like to take Obama out and whip him when he talked about business. I think he said businesses don't do it on their own. That they need their roads and things, but they steward him. He said they need the trucks and the people working for them. Oh, they
need the bridges fixed. They need the potholes fixed.
DeSantis, he went against two of the biggest industries in Florida. The ocean line, he got into a fight with the shipping, the cruise line,
right,
and with Disney, the largest employer in your state. They have their own communities.
Paying the biggest taxes. They actually pay. They're a corporation that pay the taxes.
Right. And that they care about people. They got people who work for them who have these. So anyway, Ron DeSantis, I think he thinks his stuff will play beyond Florida. National. But I think I'll use an old phrase we used to say. I think he's played out.
Yeah, he done played himself, Juan.
He's played
they
himself.
don't have, but they don't have nobody else. What's the other lady that's running?
Nikki Haley's running.
Nikki Haley.
Somebody else jumped in, but they expect Sununu from New Hampshire. He's probably going to jump in.
They already counted out Chris.
There's going to be
Chubby Checkers. What's his name?
Not Cruz, but maybe New Jersey, Chris Christie.
Yeah, they don't cancel them out. They say he don't stand a chance.
But I think that these people are going to jump in. They're going to see, but I don't think any of them really are able to take on. I think they're waiting to see if Trump gets indicted or gets in trouble with more because they don't stand a chance.
Trump is not going to be running.
You don't think so?
No, he's already got one indictment. Georgia is really lying. A lot of people say, why is she taking so long? Because, Juan, that's what they do to people like him who slippery slide, Teflon man. They get ready to light him up. He's getting ready to get indicted. And guess who else he's going to get indicted from? Those Proud Boys got indicted, right, for this. The guy, I forgot his name. Jesus, that's running Smith. Adam Smith. No, not is that his name? The guy who's running the
case against them.
The special counsel.
Smith. His last name is Smith. I can't think his first name.
I think it's Adam Smith. He is on. So he's going to have so many indictments, Juan. And these are criminal. These not civil. These going to be criminal.
But
I just can't see. I think he's just grifting, trying to get more money from people.
Well, but they say the closer that these cases get to the election, that advantage is Trump's because they really.
But he ain't the president no more.
They really, but they really don't. But he's already said he's running. So
he ain't the president.
Technically, yeah. But I think
Juan,
that
here's my theory again, Juan.
Okay.
You know my theories, right? And watch, most of my theories have come through. This is what I think is going to happen, Juan. Remember when OJ was fleeing in the white Bronco?
Yes.
My theory is Trump is going to be the same thing that's going to play out. He's going to try to flee the country in his Trumpmobile, that plane. And just like OJ, instead of they chasing the police cars, they're going to be chasing them with F-18s. And he's going to be trying to flee in the Trumpmobile. Just like OJ, they're going to have him on camera. We got him. And he's going to try to fly to Putin. And Putin going to play him, say, you can't get here. Then Young Jong-un, he's going to try to go over there. They're going to say, nope, you can't fly here. And he's just going to be flying around. until they run out of gas.
Yes.
Remember, I told you this.
I remember. I'm putting it down. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen.
You heard it first.
May 7th.
Big Bob.
Yes, Big Bobster. That's right. His predictions do come true. So, okay. Yeah.
Juan, last one. We got to get our sports in. We got to get our sports in, right? And one of the sports things that I wanted to talk about was I hope it's the right term, the transgender people are performing in sports. Especially if you were a male and had a sex change, and now you're swimming like that swimmer that was crushing these women because he's really a man. And they saying, they don't have a problem with that. So some people say, well, why don't they just have special sports for transgender? They said, well, it's not enough transgender to have a sport. But I have an issue, Juan, with a man who's now had a sex change, but his genes and his muscle composition is still of a man, and you race against women. And they always say, when it comes to physical things, men have an advantage over women. I don't get it. I don't know why this is an argument.
Well, Bob, just on that note, I think that transgender, just period, are experiencing a big backlash and violence against them and so forth. Now, with that being said, yes, that is the topic of sports has been big, especially the way you were just explaining it. So I think that it's a hot button issue. I'm not an expert on the gender, what happens, what advantages they have, but yes, what you make good points. But I would just say that if that was all that they had a problem with transgender, that the sports, I think that would be a big relief for transgender. But things like taking away their health care, abuse, all those things, I think really take away from this very important subject that we have. And I just think that it needs to be looked at. It needs to be done more civilly, if you will. I'm not sure if that's a word, but that's where I think there's a problem.
Johanna, thank you very much. Johanna said with all these cases, Trump might try to leave the country. I'm trying to tell you. Thank you, Johanna. I'm trying to tell you. But Juan, let me tell you how confusing this is, the transgender thing.
Okay.
And help me with it, Juan, because I really want to understand it better.
Yes.
It's so confused right now that it had me thinking, I'm like, wow, they don't flip things. So it's because I like women, does that make me a lesbian? Okay, I ain't gonna start one. Okay, I'm just playing. So
you had me trying to think. But
I'm just kidding. But that's how crazy it is. I'm making fun of it. That's the market of it all. But Juan, last subject, because we're coming up on the hour. What the hell is going on with the Kentucky Derby, Juan? Tell the people.
Yeah, Bob, at first last week coming up to the Kentucky Derby, they said 3 horses had died.
Right.
And I kind of thought that was crazy.
Yeah,
and
a bit much.
And then their 4th horse passed. And then yesterday they said just casually 7 horses died. I'm like, 7 horses?
That's 10 in total.
What in the world is going on? So, but they seem to just, and I wrote, is anybody outraged? And should they be? I'm like, wait a minute, man. Isn't that anything else? If you were coming up on the Olympics and all the sprinters, 8 out of the 10 sprinters died.
Nah.
I think that would be a problem. I don't understand, man. But
they said like it was nothing.
And I told you, Bob, these are not like horses just out. They found, with their bellies big, they eating in the pack. These are race horses. These are $1 million horses, man. Even the cheapest horse. Even the lowest is $1 million horse. You got that. It's a rich person sport. I don't know, man, but I thought it cast a big shadow on the Kentucky Derby. They went ahead, of course, it's the pomp and circumstances, but your boy Matt Tirico, he was kind of, he was pumping people up for the race, but I just think that, man, that's horrific. There's a problem. Either doping these horses up, their bodies are fragile. They said their legs are like snapping. I don't know what they're giving them, but yeah, I think there needs to be an investigation. And as I said, if it was in anything else, that might put an end to the Kentucky Derby.
Well, let me tell you a little secret. The first 10 Kentucky Derbies were won by black men.
Black jockeys, right?
Black jockeys. And what people don't know, Juan, the little jockey that be in the yard that people thought was a racist, that was actually in tribute because they banned black jockeys. That's why the black jockeys became trainers. Look at it. You don't see no black jockeys?
Yeah, black jockeys, not anymore.
They banned it. That was supposed to be a tribute. I don't know when it became a racist thing with the little black jockey in the yard, but that's supposed to have been a tribute for the black jockeys that were banned. The first 10 Kentucky, and they were slaves.
Most people don't know.
But that's why we have.
And we don't have black caddies anymore. Now they're getting paid millions of dollars. They're using their wives.
You ain't got no black caddies.
Yeah.
So
if I had better knees, I'd be a caddy.
That's why we have this show, Juan, to inform people. It's not just our opinion. Our opinions is just on the facts, just to keep that straight. And we hope that we reached you all and enriched some people and brought some information to you that made you go, whoa, I didn't know that, or wow. Because we're not trying to take no sides. We're just trying to put it out there.
Right.
So you can make your own.
The comments by Johanna, that was great. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Johanna. Yeah. Thanks, Sabrina. But really, we just are putting it out there so to make people think and to hear your opinions, because it's all about a conversation, Juan. Anything starts. Racism, it doesn't matter what, relationships, business, it all starts with a conversation. And we need to talk about these things so that we can expose and get clarity on what is the truth versus what is not the truth. Two ways that you could be fooled, Juan. Once by telling you something that is not true. And the second way is not believing what is true. So with that, you all.
Well said.
Thank you all for tuning in to On Point Opinions. Our next show will be June the 1st, the first Sunday of every month. Our next show will be June the 4th, 2023. Any closing remarks, Mark?
No, I think you said it all, and appreciate folks tuning back in. Love the comments.
Tell your people.
And there's a bunch of stuff, and we didn't even hit all our stuff, you all. So we know there's a bunch of things, and we're going to get to them. And hey, it'll be relevant, and we'll have a bunch of new stuff next month. So
Johanna has one last comment. He said, yes, also the jockey that be in the yards was one of the jockeys that was watching George Washington's horse. Yeah, supposedly he died in the cold weather. Yeah, by the way, Johanna, you're right. One of the jockeys that won was George Washington. Matter of fact, George Washington used to go against Thomas Jefferson with their slaves as jockeys, and they used to go against the British people. And a lot of believe this.
I'm just learning this. That's great.
Check this out. A lot of plantations were saved by black jockeys because they were racing against English for sugar, for flour, gold. I mean, it's amazing, but I'm not going to get into it. But there's a whole history about the black jockeys. So we want to tune in. Look, please share this information, and you can go back out there. If anybody missed this show, you can tell them they can catch it in our archives on Facebook Live and YouTube. So thank y'all. Make sure y'all tell more people. We're doing this. We're trying to help our people get an understanding instead of being what is it? The Lady of Justice that has the blindfold on.
Right.
Come on, that's right there. Show you how shaky it is. But anyway,
we're gonna get a guest in too. Okay.
Yeah. All right, peace, Yana. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace be y'all, and we hope we see you next month.
Absolutely.